The massive crystalline chamber hummed with alien technology as Zexthel reviewed the final data streams from Earth. His 6 eyes focused on the holographic display showing the third planet from a yellow star, rotating slowly in the center of the room. The blue and green world looked peaceful enough, but appearances could be deceiving. That was why the Galactic Council spent years studying new species before making contact. Zexthel had been the lead xenobiologist on this project for 3 standard cycles. He knew more about humans than any other being in the galaxy. The data was clear, and his conclusion was simple. Humans were a Class D manageable threat. Nothing more, nothing less. The chamber doors slid open with a soft whisper, and High Commander Veltar entered. The massive alien moved with surprising grace despite his intimidating size. His 4 arms crossed behind his back as he approached the display. "Show me what you have learned about these creatures," Veltar commanded. Zexthel activated the presentation with a thought. Images of human cities, armies, and technology filled the air around them. The species calls themselves humans. They are bipedal mammals with a single brain and limited sensory capabilities. Their technology is primitive but shows potential for development. The display shifted to show human military forces. Tanks rolled across battlefields while aircraft soared overhead. They have mastered basic chemical propulsion and nuclear energy. Their weapons are crude but effective against their own species. They wage constant war among themselves over resources and territory. Veltar studied the images with interest. "What of their space capabilities?" "Limited," Zexthel replied. "They have managed to reach their natural satellite and have sent small probes to nearby planets. Their largest spacecraft carry only a few individuals and require enormous resources to launch. It would take them centuries to develop true interstellar travel without outside assistance." The High Commander nodded approvingly. "Their political structure? Fragmented into competing nation-states. They maintain over 200 separate governments, many of which are in active conflict with each other. Their largest military forces are spread across multiple continents with no unified command structure. They spend more resources fighting each other than they do on technological advancement." Veltar's expression showed satisfaction. "And their psychological profile?" Zexthel manipulated the display to show human behavior patterns. "They are aggressive by nature but lack focus. Their violence is chaotic and driven by emotion rather than strategic thinking. They form small tribal groups and show intense loyalty to their immediate community, but this same trait makes them suspicious of outsiders. They cannot unite even when facing common threats." The presentation showed footage of human wars throughout history. Soldiers charged across battlefields, cities burned, and weapons fired in endless cycles of violence. They have great capacity for destruction but poor coordination. Their leaders are chosen through primitive democratic processes or inherited power structures. Most decisions are made based on short-term gains rather than long-term planning. "Intelligence level?" Veltar asked. "Adequate for their current development stage. They show creativity and problem-solving abilities, but their education systems are inconsistent across their world. Scientific knowledge is concentrated in a few advanced regions while vast populations remain technologically backward. They have not yet learned to share information efficiently across their species." Zexthel highlighted several human achievements. "They have made impressive advances in certain fields. Their computer technology is surprisingly sophisticated for their development level. They have created global communication networks and have begun to understand genetic manipulation. However, these advances are not evenly distributed among their population." The display showed human medical facilities and research centers. Their medicine is effective but primitive. They have conquered many diseases but still suffer from basic biological limitations. Average lifespan is less than 100 standard years. Their bodies are fragile and require constant maintenance. Veltar studied the data for several minutes. "What is your recommended threat classification?" "Class D manageable threat," Zexthel stated confidently. "Standard pacification protocols should be sufficient. Their technological limitations prevent them from offering meaningful resistance to our forces. Their political divisions ensure they cannot mount a coordinated defense. Their psychological profile suggests they will submit to superior authority once they understand the futility of resistance. The High Commander activated his personal communicator. Prepare a standard occupation force. 3 battle cruisers should be adequate for initial contact. Deploy suppression fields to disable their primitive electronics. We will follow Protocol 7 for Class D civilizations. Meanwhile, millions of kilometers away, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, humanity's most advanced deep space research vessel. The ship was humanity's pride, equipped with the latest technology Earth could produce. To Morrison and his crew, it represented the pinnacle of human achievement. Captain, we're detecting unusual energy signatures near the outer asteroid belt, reported Communications Officer Lisa Grant from her station. Her fingers danced across the console as she tried to isolate the readings. Morrison moved to stand. Behind her chair. What kind of signatures? Unknown, sir. The patterns don't match anything in our database. They're too organized to be natural phenomena, but too advanced to be from any known human technology. Tactical Specialist Ryan Burke looked up from his instruments. I'm reading multiple contacts, Captain. They're moving in formation and maintaining perfect spacing. Whatever they are, they're under intelligent control. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. For years, scientists had debated whether humanity was alone in the universe. The discovery of microbial life on Mars had proven life could exist elsewhere, but this was the first sign of intelligent activity beyond Earth. Are they scanning us? Morrison asked. Negative, sir. They appear to be focused on Earth itself. The energy beams are directed toward our planet in a systematic pattern. It looks like they're conducting some kind of survey. Morrison grabbed the ship's communication system. This is Captain Morrison of the USS Defiance to Earth Defense Command. We have detected unknown contacts conducting what appears to be surveillance of Earth. Request immediate instructions. The response came back within minutes. Admiral Helen Stone's voice crackled through the speakers. Captain Morrison, maintain your current position and continue monitoring. Do not attempt to make contact. We are classifying this as a Code Black situation. Morrison understood the implications. Code Black meant potential first contact with an alien species. Every protocol they had trained for was about to be tested. Back in the Alien Command Center, Zextel completed his final report. The humans show no awareness of our presence. Their detection capabilities are limited to basic electromagnetic sensors. They have not noticed our survey probes despite multiple close approaches to their planet. High Commander Veltar approved the mission parameters. Excellent work, Zextel. The Council will be pleased with your thorough analysis. We will proceed with standard occupation procedures. These humans will be properly managed within the galactic community. Neither alien realized they had just made the greatest miscalculation in galactic history. The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system with practiced precision. Commander Vexcala observed the blue planet through the main viewport of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. 3 battle cruisers should be more than enough to handle this primitive world. The High Command had allocated standard resources for a Class D operation, and Vexcala had no reason to doubt their assessment. Begin standard approach vector, he commanded his bridge crew. Activate suppression fields once we reach optimal range. I want their primitive electronics disabled before we make contact. The fleet moved inward toward Earth with the confidence of a superior civilization. Their ships were marvels of galactic engineering, equipped with energy shields that could deflect most known weapons and powered by cores that could level entire continents. Against a species that still used chemical rockets, the outcome seemed inevitable. Dr. Amanda White was working the night shift at the Arecibo Observatory when her instruments detected something impossible. The massive radio telescope had been scanning the heavens for decades, listening for any sign of intelligent life beyond Earth. Tonight it found more than anyone had bargained for. This can't be right. she muttered, adjusting the receivers and checking her equipment. The signal was clear and undeniable. Multiple large objects were approaching Earth from beyond the orbit of Pluto, and they were transmitting on frequencies that no human technology could produce. Her hands trembled as she reached for the emergency phone. "This is Dr. White at Arecibo. I need to speak with Director Martinez immediately. We have a situation." Within minutes, the observatory was buzzing with activity. Scientists and technicians gathered around the main console as the signals grew stronger. The objects were definitely artificial and definitely not human. After decades of searching for extraterrestrial intelligence, they had finally found it, and it was coming to them. Commander Vexcala's communication officer looked up from his station. "We are within range of the target planet. All systems are functioning normally." "Good," Vexcala replied. "Begin the standard first contact protocol. Transmit our demands in their primitive languages." The message went out across multiple frequencies, translated into what the aliens believed were the dominant human languages. The translation was rough, processed through their limited understanding of human communication, but the meaning was clear enough. "People of Earth," the message began, crackling through radio speakers and television broadcasts around the world. "We are the Galactic Council. Your world has been selected for integration into our civilization. You will surrender all weapons and submit to our authority. You have 72 hours to comply. Resistance will be met with appropriate force." The message repeated in broken English, Spanish, Mandarin, and several other languages. The alien translators had done their best, but their pronunciation was strange and their grammar was often wrong. Despite the linguistic problems, the threat was unmistakable. President Frank Martinez was awakened at 3 a.m. by his chief of staff. "Sir, we have a situation. You need to see this immediately." Within an hour, the president was in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by military advisors and intelligence officials. The alien message played on the main screen while satellite images showed the approaching fleet. "How many ships?" Martinez asked. "3 large vessels, sir," replied General Patricia Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. "Each one is approximately 2 kilometers long. They're unlike anything in our current technology." "What about their weapons capabilities?" "Unknown, sir. Our satellites can detect energy signatures, but we have no way to analyze alien technology. We have to assume they're heavily armed." Martinez rubbed his temples. 72 hours. That's not enough time to evacuate major cities or organize any kind of meaningful response. "Sir," interrupted CIA Director Robert Chun, "we're receiving reports from around the world." The message was broadcast globally. Every major government is scrambling to respond. The UN Security Council is convening an emergency session at NORAD. Engineer Tom Bradley was having the most important day of his career. The alien suppression fields had activated as their ships entered Earth's atmosphere, and electronics around the world were failing. Cars stopped working, power grids flickered, and communication systems went dark, but not everything was affected. Tom had spent years working on hardened military systems designed to survive nuclear electromagnetic pulses. These systems operated on different frequencies and used shielded components that seemed to resist the alien interference. "Colonel Davis," he called to his commanding officer, "the suppression field has a specific frequency range. Our hardened systems are still operational." Colonel Davis looked up from his malfunctioning computers. "What do you mean?" "The aliens are using a wide-spectrum suppression field, but it has gaps. Our missile defense systems are still online. The nuclear arsenal is unaffected. They haven't disabled everything." This was crucial information. While civilian infrastructure failed across the globe, military installations with proper shielding maintained some operational capability. The aliens had made their first mistake. Meanwhile, Dr. Kevin Ross at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology was examining debris from the alien reconnaissance probes that had been detected by the USS Defiance. The fragments had been recovered from the asteroid belt and rushed to Earth for analysis. "This is incredible," he told his research team. "The material composition is unlike anything we've seen. It's some kind of crystalline matrix that can store and conduct energy with perfect efficiency. His colleague, Dr. Susan Miller, looked up from her microscope. The structure is self-repairing. Watch this. She damaged a small sample with a laser, and the material immediately began to reform itself. If we can understand how this works, Ross said, we might be able to adapt it to our own technology. The alien fleet settled into orbit around Earth, their ships taking position above major population centers. Commander Vexkala was pleased with the operation so far. The suppression fields had disabled most human technology as expected, and no significant resistance had been encountered. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we're detecting some residual electronic activity from the surface. It appears their military installations have some systems that are still functioning. Vexkala dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. Primitive backup systems. They pose no threat to our forces. Begin preparations for ground deployment. The commander was following standard protocol exactly as the manual prescribed. For a Class D civilization, these procedures had never failed. The aliens would establish control points in major cities, demonstrate their superior technology, and wait for the inevitable surrender. What they didn't understand was that humanity's response to overwhelming odds was not surrender, but adaptation. Around the world, military leaders were already planning resistance operations. Scientists were working frantically to analyze alien technology. Most importantly, something was happening that the aliens had never encountered before: the fractured. Human governments were beginning to unite. Ancient enemies were setting aside their differences. The species that the aliens had dismissed as hopelessly divided was discovering that when faced with extinction, they could become something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. In Moscow, Beijing, London, and Washington, military commanders were establishing communication through the surviving hardened networks. For the first time in human history, every major military force on Earth was preparing to coordinate their efforts against a common enemy. The aliens had 72 hours to wait for humanity's surrender. They had no idea they were about to face the most dangerous creature the galaxy had ever seen, a united human species fighting for its survival. The 72-hour deadline passed without humanity's surrender. Commander Vexkala stood on his bridge, watching the blue planet rotate below them. He had expected the humans to capitulate by now, but their silence was telling. They were simply too primitive to understand the hopelessness of their situation. Begin the ground assault, he ordered. Deploy standard pacification forces to major population centers. Use minimum force necessary to demonstrate our superiority. The first wave of alien dropships launched from the 3 battle cruisers. Each ship carried 50 soldiers equipped with energy weapons and personal shields. The aliens had calculated that a show of force would be sufficient to break human resistance. After all, their intelligence reports showed that humans were easily intimidated by superior technology. General Patricia Hayes watched the alien ships descend toward Earth's major cities from the Pentagon's command center. The buildings hardened. Communication systems were still functioning despite the suppression fields, allowing her to coordinate with military leaders around the world. All units, this is General Hayes, she spoke into her headset. Operation Unity is now active. Remember, we're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to survive long enough to learn how to win the war. The first alien dropship touched down in Times Square, New York City. The civilians had been evacuated, but hidden throughout the surrounding buildings were units of the National Guard and regular army. They watched as the ramp lowered an alien. Soldiers emerged. The beings were tall and covered in metallic armor that seemed to shimmer with energy. Their weapons looked like works of art compared to human firearms. They moved with the confidence of a species that had never been defeated. Captain Danny Chun crouched behind cover 2 blocks away. Watching through binoculars, he had served 3 tours in Afghanistan and knew something about fighting a technologically superior enemy. The key was to be unpredictable. Wait for my signal, he whispered to his men. Remember, we're not here to win. We're here to gather intelligence and prove that humans don't surrender easily. The aliens began setting up some kind of device in the center of the square. It looked like a communications array, probably meant to broadcast surrender demands to the local population. That was when Chun gave the signal. The attack came from all directions at once. Sniper fire erupted from rooftops while machine gun nests opened up from concealed positions. The aliens' personal shields flared as bullets struck them, but the energy barriers held. The human weapons were indeed primitive by galactic standards, but the aliens had not expected any resistance at all. Their intelligence had suggested that humans would flee or surrender when faced with superior force. Instead, they found themselves in a coordinated ambush. "Return fire," commanded the alien squad leader. "Suppress these primitives." The energy. Weapons fired back, turning concrete to dust and metal to slag. Several human soldiers were killed instantly, but the others kept fighting. When their positions became untenable, they withdrew through prepared escape routes only to attack again. From different angles, similar scenes played out in London, Tokyo, Moscow, and dozens of other cities. The aliens found themselves facing not the cowering primitives they had expected, but organized military forces that refused to break despite taking heavy casualties. In Beijing, Colonel Yue led his soldiers in a desperate defense of the city center. They had positioned themselves in the subway tunnels, using the underground network to move between attack positions. The aliens controlled the surface, but the humans owned the depths. They're following standard occupation protocols, Liu reported to his superiors. They're trying to establish control points rather than destroying everything. We can use that against them. The colonel was right. The aliens were treating this like any other Class D pacification operation. They wanted to preserve the infrastructure and population for integration into the galactic community. This restraint was something the humans could exploit. Dr. Kevin Ross was having a breakthrough. In his laboratory at MIT, the alien technology samples had revealed secrets that could change everything. Working around the clock with his team, he had managed to reverse engineer the basic principles of alien energy storage. "Look at this," he said to Dr. Susan Miller, pointing to a modified device on his workbench. "I've managed to create a hybrid system that combines their energy matrix with our electronics. It's crude, but it works." The device was a simple energy weapon built using scavenged alien materials and human engineering. It was nowhere near as advanced as the aliens' equipment, but it was a start. "How long before we can mass produce these?" Miller asked. "Weeks, maybe months," Ross replied. "But we need more alien technology to work with. We need to capture one of their ships." That was exactly what Captain Jake Morrison was planning. The USS Defiance had been retrofitted with every defensive system Earth could provide. It wasn't much against alien technology, but Morrison had a plan that didn't rely on superior firepower. "We're going to ram them," he explained to his crew. "The ship's nuclear reactor is rigged to overload on impact. We'll take out one of their smaller vessels and hopefully give the scientists something to work with." Communications Officer Lisa Grant looked up from her station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They're demanding that we surrender immediately." Morrison smiled grimly. "Send them our response. Tell them that humanity doesn't surrender." The aliens were growing frustrated. What should have been a simple occupation was turning into a prolonged conflict. Their casualties were light, but they were taking casualties against a species that should have been helpless. Commander Vexkala studied the reports from his ground forces. "These humans are more resilient than expected. Increase force levels and expand the assault to secondary targets." But even as he gave the order, Vexkala was beginning to doubt the intelligence reports. The humans weren't behaving like a Class D civilization. They were organized, determined, and learning from each engagement. Worst of all, they showed no signs of breaking. On Earth, something unprecedented was happening. The United Nations Security Council had passed a resolution authorizing the creation of a unified Earth Defense Force. Ancient enemies were sharing intelligence and coordinating military operations. The Russians were providing equipment to American forces. The Chinese were sending technical advisors to European laboratories, President Martinez. addressed the world in a broadcast that somehow reached every surviving communication system on the planet. My fellow humans, we face an enemy that believes we are weak and divided. They are wrong. Today, we are not Americans or Russians or Chinese. We are human beings, and we will not surrender our world to anyone. The speech was broadcast not just to Earth, but intercepted by alien communication systems. The aliens listened to the words, but they failed to understand their true meaning. They heard defiance, but they missed the transformation that was occurring. Humanity was awakening. The species that had spent centuries fighting each other was discovering what they could accomplish when they worked together. The aliens had made a critical error in their assessment, and now they were about to learn why humans had survived every challenge their harsh world had thrown at them. The war was just beginning, and humanity was no longer the same species the aliens had studied. They were becoming something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. They were becoming unified, and that made them the most dangerous force in the universe. The alien high command was not pleased with the reports from Earth. War leader Vexmore arrived in the solar system with a full battle fleet, convinced that Commander Vexcala had simply been too cautious in his approach. The intelligence reports were clear. Humans were a Class D species that should have surrendered within days of first contact. You have allowed these primitives to embarrass the Galactic Council, Vexmore declared as he took command of the operation. I will show you how to properly handle inferior species. Vexmore brought with him 12 additional battlecruisers and enough soldiers to occupy a dozen worlds. He had conquered 43 civilizations in his career, and everyone had followed the same pattern. Initial resistance, demonstration of superior force, and then inevitable surrender. Double the ground forces, he ordered. Target their military installations and communication centers. These creatures will learn to submit or they will be eliminated. But while the aliens were reinforcing their invasion, humanity was undergoing a transformation that their rigid military doctrine could not comprehend. Dr. Kevin Ross had established research centers in hidden locations around the world, each one working to reverse engineer alien technology. We've made another breakthrough, Ross reported to the Unified Earth Defense Command. The alien shield generators operate on rotating frequencies. We can't match their technology, but we can disrupt it. His team had created what they called frequency bombs, devices that could interfere with alien energy shields for brief periods. The weapons were crude and required enormous amounts of power, but they gave human forces a fighting chance. Engineer Susan Miller had made equally important discoveries. Their propulsion systems use gravitational field manipulation. We can't replicate it, but we can detect it. We'll always know when their ships are approaching. The information was immediately shared with military commanders worldwide. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had technological advantages they could exploit. Captain Jake Morrison was preparing for the most dangerous mission of his career. The USS Defiance had been equipped with every piece of alien technology the scientists could adapt to human systems. The ship looked like a hybrid monster, bristling with weapons that combined human engineering with alien principles. Are you sure about this, Captain? Asked Tactical Specialist Ryan Burke. We're going up against a battle cruiser with a research vessel. Morrison checked his instruments one final time. We're not trying to win a fair fight, Ryan. We're trying to capture one of their ships intact. The scientists need better samples to work with. The plan was audacious and probably suicidal. The Defiance would use its new stealth capabilities to approach an alien vessel, disable its shields with frequency bombs, and then board it before the aliens could respond. If they succeeded, humanity would have access to advanced alien technology. If they failed, they would probably be vaporized. On the ground, the war was intensifying. The aliens had deployed their full military might against Earth's major cities. But they were encountering resistance unlike anything in their experience. Human soldiers fought with a desperation that confused alien commanders. Captain Danny Chun led his unit through the ruins of downtown Los Angeles, where alien forces had established a command post. The buildings were damaged and the streets were full of debris, but Chun's soldiers moved with practiced efficiency. "Remember," he told his men, "we're not trying to hold ground. We're trying to make them pay for every inch they take." The humans had learned to fight the aliens on their own terms. They used hit-and-run tactics, struck from unexpected angles, and disappeared before the aliens could respond effectively. Most importantly, they never gave up. In Moscow, Colonel Ivan Petrov was coordinating similar operations. His forces had turned the city's subway system into a fortress, using the underground tunnels to move supplies and personnel without being detected by alien sensors. "They control the surface," he reported to his commanders, "but we control everything below. They cannot root us out without destroying the entire city." The aliens were growing frustrated with the urban warfare. Their weapons were designed for open combat between military forces, not for fighting an enemy that hid among civilian structures. Every building could conceal human soldiers. Every subway tunnel could be a trap. War leader Thexmore studied the casualty reports with growing anger. His forces were winning every engagement, but the humans kept fighting. They absorbed losses that should have broken their will to resist, yet they continued to attack. "What is wrong with these creatures?" he demanded. They should have surrendered by now. His intelligence officers had no answer. The human behavior was unlike anything in their databases. Most species fought to preserve their civilization, but when faced with overwhelming force, they eventually sought terms that would allow them to survive. Humans seemed to prefer death to surrender. The breakthrough came when Captain Morrison's mission succeeded beyond all expectations. The USS Defiance managed to disable and board an alien destroyer, capturing not just the ship, but its entire crew. The victory cost Morrison his life, but it gave humanity something priceless: intact alien technology and living prisoners to interrogate. Dr. Ross arrived at the captured vessel within hours of its seizure. What he found exceeded his wildest hopes. The alien ship was a technological marvel, powered by energy sources that humanity had only dreamed of. More importantly, its computer systems contained detailed information about the Galactic Council and their military capabilities. "This changes everything," Ross told the assembled military leaders. "We now know how their technology works. We can build countermeasures. We can even build our own versions of their weapons." The aliens had made a critical error in underestimating human adaptability. Within weeks of capturing the destroyer, human factories were producing hybrid weapons that combined alien energy technology with human manufacturing techniques. The weapons were crude compared to pure alien technology, but they were effective. Engineer Carl Johnson led the weapons development program. "We can't match their quality," he explained to the production teams, "but we can exceed their quantity. For every alien weapon, we'll build 10 human ones." The tide of battle was beginning to shift. Human forces equipped with energy weapons and shields began to achieve victories that had seemed impossible just weeks before. The aliens found themselves facing an enemy that was rapidly closing the technological gap. War leader Thexmore requested additional reinforcements from the High Command, but for the first time in Galactic Council history, such a request was denied. The Council was beginning to realize that their assessment of humanity had been fundamentally flawed. "These creatures are not behaving like a Class D species," the High Command informed him. "You will receive no additional resources. Complete your mission with existing forces." But Dexmore was beginning to understand that the mission might be impossible. The humans had done something that no other species had ever achieved. They had adapted to alien technology faster than the aliens could adapt to human tactics. The war was entering a new phase, and for the first time since the invasion began, the aliens were no longer certain of victory. They had awakened something in humanity that their intelligence had failed to predict: the ability to unite their entire species in the face of extinction and to innovate at a pace that defied all logical expectations. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had survived every challenge their harsh world had thrown at them, and why they would not surrender their home to anyone. 6 months had passed since the aliens first arrived at Earth, and the war had transformed into something neither side had expected. The planet that should have surrendered in days had become a fortress world that consumed alien resources faster than the Galactic Council could replace them. War Leader Thexmore stood in his command center, staring at reports that made no sense according to every military manual he had studied. Human forces were not just resisting, they were advancing. Cities that had been under alien control for months were being liberated by human soldiers equipped with weapons that shouldn't exist. How is this possible? He demanded from his intelligence officers. These creatures were using chemical rockets 6 months ago. Now they're fielding energy weapons that can penetrate our shields. The truth was simple but terrifying. Humanity had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had reverse-engineered alien technology and adapted it to their own manufacturing capabilities in a matter of months. What should have taken decades had been accomplished through a combination of desperate innovation and species-wide cooperation. Dr. Kevin Ross had become the most important human on Earth. His research teams worked around the clock in hidden laboratories, continuously improving the hybrid weapons that kept humanity in the fight. The captured alien destroyer had provided blueprints for technology that was reshaping human civilization. We've cracked their communication codes, Ross reported to Admiral Helen Stone at the New Earth Defense Command headquarters. We know where their supply ships are coming from and when they'll arrive. Stone studied the tactical display showing alien ship movements throughout the solar system. Can we intercept them? Better than that, Ross replied. We can capture them. Every alien ship we take gives us more technology to work with. We're not just fighting a war anymore, we're stealing their entire technological base. The plan was audacious even by human standards. Instead of simply defending Earth, humanity would go on the offensive. They would capture alien vessels, steal their technology, and use it to build a fleet capable of taking the war to the enemy. Captain Lisa Grant had been promoted to command the USS Vengeance, humanity's first truly hybrid warship. Built using captured alien technology and human engineering, the ship represented everything the aliens had failed to understand about their enemy. All stations report ready, she announced to her crew. We're about to make history. The Vengeance led a fleet of 12 human vessels toward the alien supply convoy. Half the ships were captured alien vessels operated by human crews, while the others were human-built hybrids that combined the best of both technologies. The aliens never saw the attack coming. Their sensors were designed to detect ships using their own technology, but the human hybrids operated on different principles. By the time they realized they were under attack, it was too late. Target their engines first, Grant ordered. We want those ships intact. The battle was swift and decisive. The alien supply ships were designed for cargo transport, not combat. Within minutes, the entire convoy was either captured or destroyed. Humanity had just seized enough alien technology to build 100 new warships, War Leader Thexmore received the news with growing dread. The supply convoy had been escorted by 2 battle cruisers, both of which were now in human hands. The creatures he had been ordered to pacify were rapidly becoming more dangerous than the force sent to conquer them. Send a message to the High Command, he ordered. Request immediate evacuation of all forces. This operation has failed. But the High Command was dealing with problems of their own. The Galactic Council was in emergency session trying to understand how their most basic assumptions about warfare had been proven wrong. The humans were not just resisting, they were learning and adapting at a rate that defied all known patterns. The threat classification was wrong, admitted Zexthel, the xenobiologist who had originally assessed humanity. These creatures are not Class D. They may not fit into our classification system at all. The council members listened in stunned silence as the reports continued. Human forces were not just defending their homeworld, they were preparing to expand beyond it. Captured alien ships were being reverse-engineered and mass-produced. The species that had been dismissed as primitive was becoming a technological power in a matter of months. What do you recommend? Asked High Commander Veltar. Complete withdrawal, Zexthel replied. We should negotiate a peace treaty while we still can. These humans are unlike anything we've encountered. They adapt too quickly and they never surrender. But it was already too late for negotiations. Admiral Stone was leading the first human expedition beyond Earth's solar system, carrying weapons specifically designed to counter alien defenses. The fleet consisted of captured alien vessels and human-built hybrids, all crewed by humans who had learned to fight a technologically superior enemy. This is Admiral Stone of the Earth Defense Force. She broadcast on all frequencies as her fleet approached the first alien colony world. "We are here to deliver a message from humanity." The alien defenders scrambled to respond, but they were facing an enemy that had learned all their tactics and weaknesses. The humans had studied captured alien training manuals, interrogated prisoners, and analyzed every aspect of alien military doctrine. They knew exactly how their enemy would react to any given situation. The battle for the colony world lasted 3 days. When it ended, the aliens had lost not just the planet but their entire defensive fleet. The humans had achieved something that no species in galactic history had ever accomplished. They had defeated a Galactic Council military force using tactics and technology that the aliens couldn't counter, War Leader. Dexmoor's final report to the High Command was a study in military disaster. "The humans have achieved technological parity with our forces in less than 1 year. They have captured 17 of our vessels and used them to build a fleet of over 50 warships. They have established military bases on 4 worlds and are expanding rapidly." The report continued with details that chilled the council members. Human forces do not follow standard military doctrine. They adapt their tactics to each situation and show no regard for acceptable casualty rates. They fight with the desperation of a species facing extinction, but they also display strategic thinking that exceeds our own. The most disturbing part of the report was the conclusion. The humans are not seeking to defend their territory. They are seeking to establish dominance over this entire region of space. They have made it clear that they will not accept any settlement that does not grant them equal status with the Galactic Council. The emergency session of the Galactic Council lasted for days. For the first time in their history, they faced an enemy that had not just resisted their conquest, but had turned the tables entirely. The humans were no longer the hunted, they were the hunters. "We have 2 choices," High Commander Veltar announced to the assembled council. "We can grant them the equal status they demand, or we can face a war that will consume the entire galaxy." The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council would extend an invitation to humanity to join as an equal member. It was either that or face the prospect of a species that had proven they could learn any technology, adapt to any situation, and never surrender no matter what the odds. The message was sent to Earth with a simple proposal. Humanity would be granted full membership in the Galactic Council with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. In return, they would agree to cease their military expansion and respect the sovereignty of other council members. Admiral Stone received the message while orbiting the former alien stronghold of Kepler 442b. She looked at the surrender document for a long moment before responding. "The people of Earth accept your proposal," she replied. "But understand this. We will never again be classified as a manageable threat. We are humanity and we bow to no one." The galaxy would never be the same. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had become a major power in less than a year. The aliens had learned too late that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It was their absolute refusal to accept defeat and their ability to unite their entire species when faced with extinction. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy was about to discover what it meant to share space with a species that had survived every challenge their harsh world had thrown at them.